Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to this webinar on the role of traditional leaders in advancing sexual and reproductive health and rights. My name is Natalia, and it is both my privilege and pleasure to host you today. This broadcast is co-hosted by Khotla, UN Women, and UNFPA on the eve of 16 days of activism against gender-based violence commemoration. We're all here today to reiterate our solidarity and commitment to promoting gender equality and to ending all forms of gender-based violence against women and girls. As the United Nations marks its 75th anniversary this year, this is the third webinar in the series where Khotla and UN Women, in partnership with UNFPA, will have a virtual dialogue focusing on the critical role of traditional leaders in advancing sexual reproductive health and rights in Africa. It's about the leaders who are working to close the gender gap for women and girls during a year which has challenged and changed us all. The United Nations marks its 75th anniversary this year. In this webinar series, UN Women has been joined by partner agencies to share perspectives on grassroots and high-level advocacy towards improving the lives of women and girls during the COVID pandemic and beyond. As the world retreated inside homes due to the lockdown measures of COVID-19, reports showed an alarming increase in the existing pandemic of violence against women. There is an alarming increase in violence against women and girls and its consequences. Intimate partner violence is on the rise, and because of mobility restrictions, many survivors cannot access health services, counseling, or police protection. Long-term closure of schools and tertiary institutions due to COVID-19 has interrupted education, exposing girls to a greater risk of gender-based violence, child marriage, female genital mutilation, unintended pregnancies, and HIV infection with limited or no access to reproductive health services. In addition, the disruption of health services has prevented many women and girls from enjoying sexual and reproductive health and exercising their reproductive rights, limiting their access to critical services such as maternal health. Limited economic opportunities are likely to increase child labor and exploitation of women and girls, including sexual exploitation and abuse. Across Africa, 125 million girls and women alive today were married before their 18th birthday, and 1 in 10 before their 15th birthday. Recent data estimates that 68 million girls will be at risk of female genital mutilation by 2030 if current levels of intervention remain in place. 1 in 3 women have experienced sexual violence by a non-intimate partner. Intimate partner violence, which is a feature of inequality between women and men, constrains the lives of too many women. Our esteemed traditional leaders across the continent are active advocates for laws to end child marriage, FGM, and other harmful practices. Khotla members have taken action to stop child marriage in communities, and they are champions of girls' access to education. We're honored as they join us today to help identify avenues for engagement, share key thoughts, perspectives, and personal opinions from the esteemed speakers on today's platform. This initiative has been implemented to strengthen connectivity and grow the network of advocates for gender equality in Africa, and we're thrilled to have you join the conversation from all over the world. Today is about honoring the role of tradition while navigating the modern world, and we invite you to join the conversation online using the hashtag #IStandForHerRights. And also, please use #GenerationEquality as we imagine a world where all people have equal rights and opportunities. Bienvenue and bienvenue to our French and Portuguese speaking guests. We're streaming this webinar in both French and Portuguese. So if you prefer, please click on the link in the description in the stream in order for you to access your language that is your preferred choice. We look forward to engaging with you a little later in our interactive Q&A. So if you'd like to share your thoughts and questions, please leave a comment on this video. They say that poets are the philosophers of humanity. And I'd like to commence this afternoon's proceedings by introducing you to celebrated South African poet and playwright and founding member of Fila Sister, spoken word collective Napo Mashiane.
From the south to the east, to the west, and all the way to the south part of the motherland. We are sons and daughters of Emir, of Shonga. We are travelers. We carry our name on our feet. We are kings and queens of Bungada. We carry our names with the beat on our feet. Ribarolong, Bakwena, Batlapim Batlakwana, Lebakhatla. We are Samburu, North butterflies. And I stand on the backs of those who are called Bakhanka, singing songs that the rain and the winds never whispered to Dinunka. But Imubaka waiting to be praised. With the buzz of the bees, the beats of the drums, they chant to my unsaid choruses. I stride on shoes of giants, creating the legacy of their quest, embracing their names in verses, reflecting their voluptuous looks on lakes, pulling their strings from Khalahari, placing them on Burwa Ba-Afrika. We are Samburu, North butterflies glittering with diamonds attached to our wings. Living after Asian tales, our souls are wrapped in long wedding shawls. We, the wise ones who speak in riddles where our words pass through village gossip metaphors. Our lands are marked by chocolate pebbles and pale skies. These lands where warriors glide effortlessly over rocks, striding easily across long life distance. And in the night of wisdom, we sing in puzzles. We come out of our cocoons like little babies covered with life. We jump like butterflies that have reached their glory. Our sounds travel far on the still air of storytelling and spell dance. We sleep with darkness calling our names. At dawn, the rays of the rising sun kisses our lips as Virgo the morning star make out our footprint. We are Samburu, North butterflies, the stringing cords from ancestors' guitars moving songs of time. As the forest echoes our clan names. We, the sand people, constantly in search of the grazing sun. Our red veins mark the soil and the split our warriorship dances with the safari snakes. Bakwena, Batlapim Batlakwana, Lebakhatla. Hutswa musu wa thuntsha, libo mankurwane, libo mantatis. And we are merely travelers. We carry our names with the beat on our feet. We chant freedom, freedom, freedom.
Thank you so much, Napo, for your interpretation and advocacy on women's rights through the written and spoken word. Some really important words out there said by Napo. We now move on to our first speaker, Honorary President of AFETIN, Action for Elimination of Child Labor in Niger, Secretary for External Relations of the Association of Traditional Leaders of Niger, and member of the Steering Committee of KOTLA. He is here to share his perspective on advancing maternal health in Niger and across the African continent. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome His Royal Highness.
Donc, je remercie d'abord l'organisation de cette visioconférence qui donne l'opportunité aux leaders traditionnels d'Afrique de dire ce qui rapport à des sujets cruciaux importants du moment et aussi de voir avec des organismes comme ONU Femmes et l'UNFPA comment est-ce qu'ils pourraient les accompagner dans les efforts qu'ils sont en train de faire. En ce qui concerne le Niger, nous avons 237 chefs traditionnels, sultans et chefs de groupement qui tous ensemble luttent aux côtés de l'UNFPA et de l'ONU Femmes ainsi que de l'UNICEF pour pouvoir améliorer l'état de santé des populations, plus particulièrement des femmes et des enfants au jour le jour. En ce qui nous concerne, nous entreprenons, et ça fait des années déjà, beaucoup de campagnes de sensibilisation pour permettre et améliorer l'accès à la santé, aux soins de santé pour la femme, pour les enfants et pour les populations en général. En ce qui concerne particulièrement la femme et l'enfant, comme nous sommes tous dans des communautés rurales, ça rend facile l'accès à la population au niveau desquelles se trouvent généralement les problèmes d'accès aux soins de santé. Et heureusement encore, nous avons un aura qui porte beaucoup, et jusqu'aux décideurs politiques, ainsi qu'aux partenaires financiers et techniques. Et cela permet de beaucoup contribuer. Et vu la confiance que les populations ont envers nous, ça nous permet d'apporter une contribution significative au rehaussement du taux de fréquentation des centres de santé au niveau des populations rurales. Plus particulièrement pour notre cas, personnellement. À part les séances de sensibilisation que nous faisons dans tous les villages, les tribus, les quartiers, les hameaux, nous avons aussi initié des programmes relevant du royaume, des programmes propres à nous, avec l'aide de l'UNFPA pour encore booster la fréquentation des centres de santé et les rendre faciles à des populations qui souvent sont démunies. Plusieurs fois, les populations viennent nous voir pour les aider à acheter des médicaments ou pour les aider à financer leur évacuation vers des centres qui sont à 5 km et plus de Tessawa. Et cela nous a donné l'idée de demander à chaque famille de contribuer pour une mesure de 1000 pour que nous rendons gratuit l'accès aux transfusions sanguines et aussi aux évacuations sanitaires, non seulement pour les hommes, mais aussi pour les femmes qui sont en difficulté d'accouchement, pour des femmes qui ont besoin des poches de sang pour leur santé, pour les enfants issus généralement et la majorité de familles pauvres et démunies. Et cela nous a permis, en raison d'1 000 par famille, de récolter la contribution de 8222 familles, ce qui fait 8222 mesures de 1000, qui fait 26 tonnes. Et lorsque le représentant de l'UNFPA ici au Niger avait appris ça, il était venu de lui-même pour voir ce qu'on faisait. Et il nous avait promis que le montant auquel on sera bloqué, il est disposé à nous donner le double. C'est ainsi qu'avec les 4 millions et quelques que nous avons réunis et les 8 que nous avait donné l'UNFPA, nous avons pu pendant 18 mois, jusqu'à ce mois-ci, donner gratuitement des poches de sang aux populations, toutes les populations du département, et même au-delà qui venaient se faire soigner chez nous. Parce que lorsque les populations avaient appris que ici les évacuateurs, les transfusions sanguines étaient devenues gratuites, toutes les populations environnantes venaient se soigner ici à Tessawa. Pendant 18 mois, nous avons assuré, nous-mêmes, nous avons géré le carburant pour l'évacuation des populations. Nous avons géré les poches de sang qu'on donnait au fur et à mesure à l'hôpital du district pour que la gratuité se fasse au niveau de nos hôpitaux. Et à part ça, nous avons aussi entrepris dès ce mois-ci une nouvelle collecte qui nous permettra, Inch'Allah, de regrouper plus de 4 millions de 1000 qui sera encore, et déjà l'UNFP nous a encore promis de nous accompagner, ce qui nous permettra pendant peut-être 2 ans d'affilée d'assurer la gratuité pour que nos populations, plus particulièrement les femmes et les enfants, n'aient peur d'aller vers les centres de santé avec cette gratuité. Et normalement, ils ont appel à tous les leaders traditionnels pour qu'ils prennent de la graine là-dessus. Parce que nous sommes les autorités les plus proches des populations. C'est sur nos épaules que la femme vient pleurer lorsque les défis de la vie lui semblent insurmontables. Et je crois que nous devons, entre nous, échanger nos expériences, permettre aux uns et aux autres d'accompagner et d'aider les communautés pour pleinement jouer notre rôle de chef traditionnel. Je vous remercie.
Thank you so much to His Royal Highness Maigizo Kanem Mahaman Mansour, Sultan King of Teso-Owa Kingdom in Niger, for their insight into advancing maternal health across the African continent. Our next speaker will build on the collective vision and plan of action by the UN, AU, CSOs and other partners. She's a medical doctor who currently serves as the Executive Director of UNFPA, the United Nations Sexual and Reproductive Health Agency. She's among the highest-ranking women at the United Nations and the first Latin American to head UNFPA. Here to unpack the implementation of African Spotlight Initiative with her keynote address on the role of traditional leaders in advancing sexual, reproductive health and rights, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Executive Director of UNFPA, Natalia Kanem. Natalia, if we could just have you unmute your mic, that would be really great. Thank you so much. We'll get to her video and her message shortly. But before we get to that, let's have a look at the Maternal and Newborn Health Thematic Fund.
For millions of parents around the world, childbirth is a moment of celebration unlike any other. Yet, without timely access to maternal and newborn care, childbirth can quickly become a life or death lottery. Every 11 seconds, a mother or baby dies due to complications during pregnancy or childbirth. The most common complication for mothers is severe bleeding, which can occur without warning and can kill even a healthy woman in just 2 hours. UNFPA is the lead UN agency for ending all preventable maternal deaths. We have made it our mission to ensure that every woman and baby has timely access to quality maternal and newborn care, no matter where they live. In 2008, we created the Maternal and Newborn Health Thematic Fund to end preventable maternal and newborn deaths and morbidities in 32 low-income countries with some of the highest numbers of maternal and newborn deaths. Guinea and Senegal are 2 countries supported by the fund, and in some regions, highlighted in red on these maps, it can take over 4 hours to reach care, and for many, that is simply too late. For the ones lucky enough to reach a clinic in time, the care they receive is often poor. The Thematic Fund aims to provide every woman timely access to life-saving interventions, such as emergency cesarean section surgeries for mothers and intensive care for newborns, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Since its creation, the fund has contributed to ensure access to safer delivery for 28 million women, including an estimated 4.2 million women facing life-threatening complications. Together, we can ensure that no mother dies while giving life.
Excellencies, Honorable Traditional Chiefs, Cher Chef Traditionnel, distinguished guests, my sister Phumzile, colleagues and friends, greetings. Bonjour, bon dia. It is a great pleasure and a great honor to be with you today. We at UNFPA have an ambitious aim to ensure universal access to sexual and reproductive health and to end all forms of violence and harmful practices against women and girls. Your leadership and your partnership are essential and greatly appreciated. In community after community, we see the tremendous role that traditional leaders play in transforming the life stories of women and girls. Chief Teresa Kachindamoto, in the central region of Malawi, locally known as the Terminator. She is renowned for her fierce leadership in annulling over 2,000 child marriages and sending girls back to school. Chief Chamuka, the fifth of the Lenje people in Zambia, another powerful champion. Under his leadership, community leaders introduced bylaws on the legal age of marriage and enforced village registration of marriages. And there are so many more examples of transformative leadership to change social norms that violate the rights of women and girls and curtail their potential. UNFPA is proud to partner with you, including the Chef Traditionnel du Niger. That association was awarded the 2017 United Nations Population Award for their good efforts. I would like to thank the Council of Traditional Leaders in Africa for your commitment and for your action towards ending child marriage, towards ending female genital mutilation, and other harmful practices on this continent. 1 year ago, we gathered at the historic Nairobi Summit on ICPD 25, and governments, civil society organizations, businesses, and many, many others recommitted to realizing a world of sexual and reproductive health and rights and choices for everyone. Faith and traditional leaders, you were among those who made bold commitments. And I recall, among many others, the commitment made by faith and traditional leaders in Ghana to enlist their networks as advocates, as community educators, to drive change locally, to address sexual and gender-based violence, especially child marriage, and to support the survivors. Her Royal Highness, Queen Sylvia Naginda Luswata of the Buganda Kingdom, committed to use her position of influence to promote maternal health and the empowerment of women and girls. At the Nairobi Summit, we recognize that partnership and new forms of collaboration are crucial. Today, our dialogue is offering us an opportunity to strategize, to look at the way forward. How can we collectively, because it's urgent, make the United Nations Secretary General's call for peace in the home a reality? We're on the eve of the 16 days of activism to end gender-based violence. And I say, enough, enough to domestic violence, enough to rape, enough to female genital mutilation and child marriage, and enough to impunity for one of the most flagrant and pervasive violations of human rights, which is gender-based violence. There can be no peace in the world without peace in the home. And there is no peace in the home without justice, without cooperation. Today, I do see glimmers of hope, from enabling policies and legislation to end violence, to reproductive justice movements led by young women aimed at ensuring bodily autonomy, choice, and dignity. Yet, friends, we must also confront the stark reality that we indeed still have a long way to go before we achieve a gender equal world. The latest UNFPA research shows that only 55% of women, married or in union, can make their own decisions regarding sexual relations, and contraception. Yet we know that women who make their own decisions around sexual and reproductive health are significantly less likely to experience intimate partner violence. They're more likely to be able to identify how to prevent HIV and AIDS and how to seek prenatal care and to deliver with a skilled birth attendant. Life-saving. Through your work to transform attitudes and beliefs and negative social norms on gender and on masculinity, you are providing the changing leadership that we need to ensure that sexual and reproductive health and rights becomes for all across Africa. You're leading community dialogues on these issues, you're supporting social mobilization initiatives, and making public declarations abandoning harmful practices. You have issued decrees and signed declarations banning child marriage. You're promoting alternative rites of passage that respect the woman and the girl's rights. Thank you. You're facilitating women and girls' access to quality sexual and reproductive health and gender-based violence support services, including health and psychosocial support, and the access to report mechanisms and for justice. All of this has to be recognized and applauded. Now, under the Spotlight Initiative to End Violence Against Women and Girls, which is funded by the European Union, UNFPA and other partners have established really strategic collaborations with traditional leaders to advance sexual and reproductive health and rights and to keep women and girls safe and free from harm. We have supported the Interreligious Council of Uganda on organizing a regional symposium, bringing together over 200 senior religious leaders to discuss gaps and opportunities for expanding the integrated programming of sexual and reproductive health, HIV, and gender-based violence. In Malawi, traditional leaders have played a pivotal role in keeping girls in school and out of child marriage, and in ensuring their access to services. As people, yes, we are products of our culture, and proudly so. And we are also the creators of culture. We are active agents. We can reshape cultural values, norms, and expressions to advance human rights. Because cultures are neither static nor monolithic. Traditional values are not to be used as a tool to curtail human rights. Speaking at the Fourth World Conference on Women in Beijing 25 years ago, former UNFPA Executive Director Dr. Nafis Sadik put it this way: we must be courageous in speaking out on the issues that concern us. We must not bend under the weight of spurious arguments invoking culture or traditional values. No value worth the name supports the oppression and enslavement of women. By building, end quote. By building on positive cultural values and religious interpretations, we can help to promote the recognition and internalization of human rights. By building on the great work of partners like Kotla and the Men Engage Alliance, we can counter harmful masculinity. We can shape a more equal future that's beneficial to all. This means engaging in long-term work with men and boys. And this is something that we at UNFPA have been doing in countries around the world. Education of boys must start young, and comprehensive sexuality education is a very effective way to instill the values of respect, equality, and consent. The successful, innovative approaches you've developed in your communities point the way forward. Together, let us dismantle any barrier keeping women and girls from the full realization of their rights and choices, of consent and quality and equality, of bodily integrity and agency in all spheres of life. Allow me to say that COVID-19 has made our path steeper, but it also offers us an opportunity to build forward differently and better, to create a more healthy and prosperous future for us all. If we unite, if we accelerate our efforts, I know that we can ensure reproductive rights and choices for all. We can achieve the Sustainable Development Goals on time by 2030 and make generation equality real. UNFPA is firmly committed to advancing action together with UN Women and our partners in the Generation Equality Action Coalition on bodily autonomy and sexual and reproductive health and rights. Our ambitions are great, and our collective effort is even greater. Last year, during a visit to Niger, I met with a group of schoolgirls, beautiful young schoolgirls, who asked me to share a message with their leaders, and I would like to share it with you. They said, "We want you to help us stay in school. We don't want to get married until we're ready. And we want you to help us fulfill our dreams." Let's make this happen for every girl. It will take all of us. With your leadership, I am very confident that a brighter future is on the African horizon. Thank you very much. Merci. Gracias.
Thank you so much to Dr. Kanem for that powerful keynote address and for stirring the commitment needed from all of us to build a future free of sexual and gender-based violence. Remember, we still have the Q&A session that's going to take place a little bit later on during this session, and also interact with us on social media using that hashtag I stand for her rights. We move on now globally. Only 56% of women say they make their own sexual and reproductive health decisions, including those related to contraception, sex, and family planning. Our next speaker is passionate about gender equality, changing cultural practices to end child marriage, reducing HIV/AIDS transmission, and promoting access to reproductive health services. He is here to share his perspective on access to family planning, as well as safe and modern contraception across the African continent. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the Honorable Ochaya Orach Vincent, Prime Minister and Royal Prince from the royal lineage of the 27th Ubimu Alwronga of the Ka-Alur Kingdom, Uganda.
Good evening, everyone, and greetings from Alur Kingdom. Today is a very special day when we talk about the teenage pregnancy, especially family planning, key teenage pregnancy. Just like anything else changing, culture is not static. Only needed moral actions is cultural. So whether you're a woman or a man, it's our collective responsibility to support teenage girls against child pregnancy and promote culturally acceptable family planning options. That's my start. It is the Alur women work hard to keep us safe even during the COVID pandemic. That's just as like the king said in his key address. And of course, he called on and urged all men in the kingdom to focus on promoting the rights and values of women and prevent girl pregnancies or adolescent pregnancies. That was a very powerful remark to call upon everyone. In Alur, we say, Dambur Madako de Mako, meaning it's the lioness that hunts the meat. Teenage pregnancies are higher in developed countries, of course, with the key known statistics for about 28% in Sub-Sahara, and Uganda alone is at 25%. That's scary. COVID-19 pandemic has not helped matters, as our students who used to be in school now are right here at home with us. That has equally presented its own issues connected to child pregnancy. The factors associated with the adolescent pregnancy in Uganda was from individual, the community, economic, cultural, physical environment, terms, and of course, extreme poverty has been key in why certain cases of child marriages come in our society. Enalur, or even African culture, pronounces access to family planning by teenage girls as misleading, and they say it's like assumed to be issues of only culturally consented childbearing adults only. Meanwhile, we even know that most children now are knowledgeable of sexual differences at the age of 3 to 7, and even sometimes become sexually active by the age of 10. In Alur Kingdom, family planning is a challenge, and key are the strong Alur cultural values and norms. Inflexibility have greatly impacted on the uptake of family planning for the teenage. We are saying, what do we do differently to make sure we address this? It has been a key factor that traditional Alur parents' main motivation is to raise girls for dowry. Even prolonging customary marriage has been a key issue, that even children are involved in these customary marriages. In the end, there's chances of pregnancy. Cultural dilemma: teen girls stigmatized when they openly use sexual reproductive options. So as Alur, in the past, we feared, because there were some cultural values, that no girl should get pregnant. If you get pregnant, is a shame. This is somehow no more these days. So whether you're a woman or man, we are, as I said before, it's now our role. With the blessing of His Royal Majesty, the King, a pronouncement was developed in the presence of the chiefs, and we are surrounded by 56 chiefs. And one of the things they took was to implement the 2015 pronouncement by His Royal Majesty against teenage pregnancy. There are key determinants in changing this. Also, strictly, customary marriages were reduced to 3 to 4 days, from 3 days to 1 day, and it's between the daytime of about 9 to 6 p.m. We have also been promoting good parenting. With our mother ministry, Ministry of Gender, we are able to be given parental guidance alongside our traditional guidance. Now, some of them even talk about adolescent sex education, key to reducing child marriages. But also, family planning community is there. We've got the Kura Matila model. Is an approach we developed to develop good morals. In this one, we have a time when we sit together with the youth and we talk to them. We tell them things they need to know about sexuality. And it's a straight talk, but culturally accepted manner about access to options that can limit you from getting pregnant. And we've got the situation under control in that most of our boys are beginning to respect girls. How? Because a girl cannot get pregnant on her own. There must be a boy or a man behind it. We've been saying, what are the most valuable things you can do for a girl is to avoid or protect her from getting pregnant. And this is the role of the boys and the men. This, in its way, culturally controls, but it's not really effective unless everybody believes in it. And personally, as a prime minister and personality model, I've used several platforms. So long as I get a platform, access to any platform, to say it is important for us to realize that girls are part and parcel of our society, but we need to protect them. And we can only protect them by keeping them away from pregnancy, giving them access to education until the university. In this way, I've tried to let people know that it's our role to protect the girls. And I've said it with so much stress, the people who listen and believe in me. So using the freedom structures, we have tried all possible options of addressing the girl-child need. And one of the key ones that I know has triggered most of our talk in the society is, what are those cultural practices we need to discard or even try to modify? One of them is, how can we protect the willingness to consent on girls' access to family planning options? Now, that has meant something very, very contagious in our society. We are working on one important move. That is to ensure all our girls, especially the young ones, must be able to be taught by everyone in the society on their rights, their roles, and aspirations. One of the key is that what an African traditional leader says is listened to, respected, and followed by subjects. Now is the time for traditional leaders to address the present teen family planning needs, rights, equalities, and inspiration amidst the very fast evolving world to match our very treasured African traditional values. Culture is not static, but should more importantly positively evolve relevantly, respectfully, and holistically towards sexual and reproductive health rights needs in our continent. African leaders should continue having conversation with our partners like UNFPA, UN Women, even the different ministries and other stakeholders to seek for alternative relevant options to promote cultural acceptable sexual reproductive health rights. And this could be through the state at state level, exercising space for policies, strategies, campaigns, champion engagement with traditional leaders aimed at pursuing means to promote natural, realistic sex health, reproductive rights to safeguard against adolescent pregnancy. We also need to run campaigns to promote use of natural family planning like royal awards for virgin girls, sex being only for adults, a child is not a mother, school first, then pregnancy for marriage comes later, among others. And with the culture around us, we need to level the grounds between cultural firmness and the needed adolescent pregnancy. Some African standards, especially for the teen girl regarding family planning, needs revision. Even if the world is evolving fast, we need African cultural norms and values that protect teenage girls from child pregnancy and promote acceptable natural family methods that simulates good morals in our traditional communities. I love this song. I like Dube. God bless the women. And I may add, God bless the women and the children, the girl child. Finally, I am happy to be part of this meeting and the Kingdom participating with UNFPA through Ministry of Gender, Labor and Social Development in Uganda in the implementation of action to eliminate gender-based violence and particularly promoting sexual reproductive health and rights, sexual reproductive health rights. And I think in Alu Kingdom, we are very, very happy to be part of this big and important campaign. I also extend my gratitude to all other funding partners, the Council of Traditional Leaders of Africa, KOTLA, UN Women, and the team behind the scenes to enable this important meeting to take place. Thank you for every effort. And the audience out there, thank you for listening. Together, we can do it. And every girl will not get pregnant before the marriage age of above 18 years in Uganda and Africa. Thank you for listening.
Thank you to the Honorable Ochaya Orach Vincent, Prime Minister and Royal Prince from the royal lineage of the 27th Ubimu Alworonga of the Kaalur Kingdom, Uganda, for sharing his insights. International human rights law guarantees everyone the right to highest attainable standard of health and obligates governments to take steps to prevent threats to public health and to provide medical care to those who need it, leaving no one behind. As a powerful advocate for UN Women, our next speaker is an ambassador for sexual and reproductive health rights. She is here to share her insights on menstrual health and hygiene, child marriage, violence against women and girls, and ending of harmful practices across the African continent. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Her Royal Highness Queen Indlovukazi Sekhothali Mabena of the Ndebele Kingdom of Lesotho in South Africa.
Greetings, everyone. Good afternoon to Your Royal Majesties, Your Royal Highnesses, esteemed guests, our UNDPA executives, and our UN women, Phumzile Mlambo. Thank you very much for this opportunity to be with you today during these trying times of a pandemic that has basically held the entire world at ransom. And with that, we can all agree that it is indeed a very tough time. I started my menstrual hygiene championing while I was still in Lesotho. And when I was there, I was a princess in the Kingdom of Lesotho. And so we started first by going around schools in semi and rural villages with an advocate friend of mine, Mpomayema. I was still in my varsity years when I started this, and we decided to distribute sanitary pads. I began this because it was a topic that was very close to my heart, and realizing that a lot of girls are unable to carry on in their studies because of a lack of menstrual sanitary wear and or menstrual hygiene knowledge. At the time, we were both part of the Sex Rights Network under the AIDS Foundation of South Africa, and that is when they decided to make me the champion of menstrual hygiene in 2018 in regards to the dedication that they saw I had. Menstrual health is extremely important for the well-being of every female, and any lack of feminine hygiene has proven to be the cause of many complications that women have endured either in their lifetime and or during birth. More especially if those girls are some who have gone under FGM. And as part of what we're already fighting against as a member of COTLA and UN Women Africa, it is very saddening to still have parts of Africa that this harmful practice is still undergone. But however, we are working together in making sure that our girls remain safe, our girls are loved, and our girls are well taken care of. The sooner I think we can start saving our girls from FGM, is the easier it will be for us to combat the lack of sanitary wear in Africa. We have since also written a petition to the African Union in trying to get sanitary pads to be free in Africa. Yes, we know that this might be a challenge with the other networks that I'm with as well, but we're very adamant and we're very optimistic in knowing that they will take the issues of our young girls and women to heart, especially because it affects their health. Their health in knowing that with the research that we have done, a lot of women and girls who were born between the 80s and the late 1990s struggle with a lot of complications. They are now prone to things such as polycystic ovarian syndrome and endometriosis, to mention a few. In the kingdom, we have, however, been going around to schools in this trying time of COVID-19 to try and bridge the gap, because we know a lot of families haven't been working because of this time, and a lot of girls were definitely in need of sanitary pads, and to try and avoid them using alternative methods such as dry cow dung, dry leaves, and dry grass. These are the things that our girls are using, and it is very saddening to watch and to see. And as a woman myself, I can only imagine the pain that they have to go through with the stigma that is also around our menstrual cycle. So we went to the schools, and I managed to provide sanitary wear to 560 girls around my kingdom to last them for at least the next 3 months. So the packs that they have right now are gonna last them until the end of December, in the hope that they will all be able to write their exams, and that no child is excluded from the education system solely because they have a lack of sanitary pads. With that distribution went with menstrual hygiene talks and programs where we sensitize the girls in knowing that it is okay. It is okay to have a mistake happen in class. And we spoke with the teachers as well to involve the boys in some of these conversations, because I think it is important that both male and female know the importance of their menstrual
Apologies there for that technical interruption. However, thank you so much to Her Royal Highness Queen Indlovukazi Sekhothali Mabena of the Ndebele Kingdom of Lesotho, South Africa, for sharing her insights. We now move on to watch another video in order for us to be able to get the Q&A session. I do encourage you at this particular time to get those questions up and running. Of course, we do love you interacting with us on social media, and we are going to try and get Her Royal Highness back online with us in order to have that Q&A session in which we'll have all our previous speakers back with us. Ladies and gentlemen, joining us live with a palpable passion for words, women's rights, and the continent which she's privileged to call her home, it's award-winning poet and playwright Napo Mashiane.
Ke setsoto le bokgabane ba mosadi wa mo Afrika. Ka botle le seriti saka ke silatsatsi ngwana ditshomo. I am the one who is born in the house of the kings and queens. So I race to swim inside the royal blood, chasing my yesteryears. My beauty scrapes earth, creating shades of purity on any child's back. In the sky today, I greet moonlight shine, holding my dreams. I am the karmic indigenous way of being. Taha Meso rises from my eyes. The bongo drums of life dances on my palms. Between these mountains of fire, nations are born. My heart is like mohope containing the fertile hope. Ke setsoto le bokgabane ba mosadi wa mo Afrika. Ka botle le seriti saka ke silatsatsi ngwana ditshomo. Ke mmakgutsitse palesa e ntle tshwanadi. Ke le kopo ke a koposela, ke mamu hau ke a hauhela, ke metsi a foro ke a forosela, ke mabele ke a kalana. The forest leaves clear my path. I sing like a waterfall, I fly like a bird, I move in one file with life. Asian rocks select my journey. And with prophetic words, the telestar of love traverses the vast span of being. The world fears my color. The world hunts my being. But I hear the wind calling my name, playing my rhythms. I am daughter of the soil. The ocean begins inside me. History is rewritten. Every day I mold and shape the wisdom of my ancestors. The baobab tree leaves will gracefully fall for my people because their sorrow and pain is engraved on hills of struggle. Me and them move with dust. Me and them eat from the pot of miracles. I run after legends. Ke setsoto le bokgabane ba mosadi wa mo Afrika. ka botle le seriti sa ka ke sila tsatsi ngwana ditshomo ke mmakgutsitse palesa e ntle tshwanahadi ke le kopo ke a koposela ke mamo hau ke a hauhela ke metsi a foro ke a forosela ke mabele ke a qalana ke le kopo ke a koposela ke mamo hau ke a hauhela ke metsi a foro ke a forosela ke mabele ke a qalana.
Thank you so much, Napo, for your powerful words. Our next esteemed speaker has served in the House of Chiefs, a statutory body which advises the government as well as the President of the Republic of Zambia on matters of tradition and customs. As the chairperson for just under a decade, he has mobilized his chiefdom on social challenges affecting communities, including HIV, gender-based violence, child marriages, alcohol and substance abuse, child labor, water and sanitation. Here to share his insights on the challenges of maternal health and child marriage, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Chief Madzimawe of Zambia.
Thank you for having me on the program. It's a pleasure being part of this program and also engaging partners like UNFPA, which is been a strategic partner to us, more especially in our fight against gender imbalances and also child marriages and other health challenges such as HIV and AIDS. So we really appreciate that this partnership is quite visible and it is really making a difference, more especially here and also Eastern Province. What we are currently doing now, initially the problem was identified, and the problem is what we call challenges, and also what the traditions and customs have contributed towards to this challenge we are trying to solve now. Hence, our call on each and every form of leadership to come on board. And as traditional leaders, we have actually begun by culture transformation to change some of those cultures that have no meaning on modern society. Hence, these programs that now have come to bring about of sexuality, sexual reproductive health right must be supported. I know that we've little fight here and there with others who would want to fight back using biblical teachings, but the line is that if we don't arm our youths, our adolescents with information regarding sexual rights and reproductive health, then this problem is not going to be solved. So in as much as we don't want to hide or to pretend it is taboo in Africa to begin to initiate the talk about sexuality with our adolescents, then we are going to, or should I say, we are sitting on a time bomb. So right now, what we need is to equip these adolescents with information that we need so that they look after themselves. And also, in as much as we are meeting during these high-level meetings, we need also to bring on board the youths because it's all about them. Let them begin to shape, begin to suggest how the future they desire should look like. So by engaging them, we are going to realize the desired goals regarding a healthy society in future. Thank you.
Thank you so much to Chief Madzimawe for sharing his expertise and perspective. Joining us next from Madagascar is a woman who has combined her title of Princess of the Kingdom of Linta in the southwest of Madagascar with her functions as an entrepreneur and woman of influence. As a doctor of philosophy, rather a doctor of pharmacy and graduate of phytotherapy and aromatherapy, she's here to share her personal views and perspective on adolescent girls and the empowerment of young women. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Her Royal Highness, Princess Mihanta Ramananswa.
Thank you. Question 1. Tiavne, 17, from the very underprivileged Ansaluvana neighborhood, is one of the brightest young women I have ever coached in leadership. She was accepted for a 6-month immersion training in a major international company in Madagascar and has a bright future ahead of her. With the 6 months of COVID-19 lockdown, the company had to part with her. Tiavne went back to her environment, got pregnant again, and got married to regularize her situation with an unemployed husband. From that day on, I decided to get involved in the SRHR as well. Young women and girls need to know that they have a destiny to fulfill because they are the future. The first step is to coach them to become leaders with an inspiring vision for themselves and their country. Thinking for themselves to conquer their freedom is a huge challenge. The second step is to give them access to my network in order to boost their professional experience and promote social mixing. At this stage, they develop self-confidence to face up to all situations. At this point, they naturally discover the power to choose their sexual life, their profession, to marry or not, to have a child or not. This is why empowerment is the cornerstone of SRHR. Question 2. The COVID-19 crisis has plunged many young women and girls into poverty in the Linta community within a Zebu-centered culture. Only term vision can produce visible, sustainable, and replicable results. And this can only be achieved through empowerment. Enabling the schooling of young girls in the main city of Tulea proven sponsorship system, while building at the same time a large home run by mothers from our village so as not to uproot them. Through access to education and knowledge, they become aware that their bodies are their property. Young adolescents and young people will get more SRHR information to empower them to make choices, which reduce their risk and vulnerability, and equip them to demand and access SRH services such as condoms and contraceptives. Training adolescent and young women to be leaders, that will also empower them to be active participants on policy or decision-making processes in the country in the long run, so they lead their own SRHR agenda. To create an income-generating activity for women. This will be the production of pears, vegetable oil, a cactus that grows like a weed in our country. First of all, this activity is compatible with our culture. Secondly, this oil has a very important added value for cosmetics. I am now evaluating the project and will start prospecting for financing for this project to be completed by September 2021 at the latest. Having income brings dignity and gives them access to fee-paying SHR as HIV testing and contraceptives and gynecological consultations. Question 3. Get to know each other better and share our experiences with an innovative approach to communication, green line social networks. Strengthen our collaboration with the political, religious, and administrative authorities in our geographical area SADC and COMESA in order to make laws evolve and relay them locally. Thank you for listening.
Thank you so much to Her Royal Highness Princess Mihanta Ramanantha for sharing her perspectives on access to sexual and reproductive rights and health information. Our next speaker continues the conversation on the advocacy of sexual and reproductive rights and health on a regional level. She's a public health specialist who is passionate about the advancement of children, young people and women and marginalized populations. She's a proponent of social justice and seeks to break boundaries when it comes to health and development, with a focus on HIV, gender human rights, and sexual reproductive rights and health. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Executive Director of SAFAIDS, Rosé Ektasadi.
Thank you. We appreciate the opportunity given to SAFAIDS to share some insights and learning from the privileged collaboration that we've held with traditional leaders and their authorities for almost 15 years now in the SADC region. And when we speak about engaging traditional leaders in advocacy actions at the regional level, it's very critical to keep in mind that these engagements do not start immediately and promptly at that escalated level. By virtue of the fact that traditional leaders and their structures are quite different to other clusters of leadership, like political leadership, for example, where government and parliamentary structures are generically defined in the same way, a deep dive understanding of traditional leadership, operational styles and processes at the local level, granular and sometimes even a tribal level is very, very fundamental as a starting point. SAFAIDS has applied a pathway of 8 building blocks, which elevate SRHR responses from the local level right up to the regional level. And these 8 building blocks have contributed to the sustainability of engagement with this cluster of leadership. The other building block is consultation, a very critical component in terms of building trust. Trust is a very key ingredient when engaging with traditional leaders. It enables them to share their concerns and needs from which we can percolate what SRH issues require attention. It enables them to also go a step further and co-create and co-design programs with us, identifying solutions themselves, which are context-specific and tailored to the need of their community, but also starts to build in buy-in, ownership, and a sense of safety on their part, that the intervention is not going to erode the sanctity of their, cultural and traditional prospects, but at the same time balance the indigenous knowledge with the scientific knowledge and ensure well-being of their communities. Capacity strengthening through SRH, to enhance their SRHR literacy is also another critical building block. And very important is mainstreaming into this gender norms transformative approaches to counter masculinities and patriarchy, as we do know the majority of traditional leaders in our region are male. And this is fundamental as a base to ensuring SRHR actions are well placed. At this point, with the transformation having taken place, the traditional leaders identify themselves as champions and they become advocacy actors. They start to integrate SRHR lingo, correct messaging into their actions. They start putting in place sanctions against stigma and discrimination and violations which take place in their communities, and apply SRH advocacy within their traditional events and festivals and so forth. And they start to also cascade and build a wider base of local peers who they've motivated and mobilized towards one unified vision around SRHR. And it's at this point where this bottom-up approach has taken place that we can now escalate it to a regional level. The 6th, 7th, and 8th building blocks are really the civil society organizations, together with development partners, providing space and platforms for traditional leaders to actually share the good work that they've done, but also share their challenges and create a cross inspiration with others. This could be at conferences, the platform like we're on right now, and other spheres. They will also have a very strong influence on the political sphere and on policy, and because they do have, in many aspects, a very strong tug on the purse strings of policy reform. Keeping them informed and having a momentum is also vital. If a program has ended, that should not mean that the continued interaction with them also closes down. Keeping them informed of new emerging issues, providing them support to be resilient within new shocks such as COVID-19, addressing climate crisis, or even the digital divide is critical. Now, the My Choice, Our Choice regional campaign is under the Transforming Lives program funded by Sweden. And it's one of our regional campaigns that has engaged traditional leaders from the 16 member states of SADC towards ending unsafe abortion, specifically amongst adolescent girls and young women. And while the results have not been released at this point in time, one of the very key pioneering milestones has been that collective agreement by traditional leaders, which actually occurred in March 2020, that it is really time to preserve and protect the lives of adolescent girls and young women and move away from the moralized approach to safe abortion. Be focused on the saving lives, the economic and the reality agenda around this more controversial SRH issue. At this juncture, we have the COVID-19 pandemic. We do know that over the years, we should have been investing more domestically. Now, not just domestic financing from governments, but domestic assets like traditional leaders, and harnessing on their powers and potentials for the African continent. Now, had we done this to the scale that we should have and could have in the past years, we would have probably seen less backlash and rollback of SRH gains when the geopolitical shifts like the global gag rule emerged. So we have an opportunity now amidst this pandemic, during its response, but also in preparation for recovery post-COVID-19, to scale up more vigilant, widespread engagement with traditional leaders, because they are indeed the artillery that will halt the opposition that we are seeing rising increasingly over the past 6 months by fundamentalist, well-structured and funded opposers to sexual reproductive health in the region. We know that when we invest in the local response to which traditional leaders are a nexus, then we have the highest yield and sustainability around sexual reproductive health rights. Thank you.
Thank you so much to Rosé Ektasadi, Executive Director of CEPHAIDS. We've had the honor of hearing the opinions and perspectives of a host of esteemed leaders across the African continent and beyond. It's now time to engage with you and hear your questions and thoughts and comments as well on the role of traditional leaders in advancing sexual and reproductive health and rights. Remember, if you have a question, you can post it in the Q&A session, and we'll do our best to get to as many questions as you have. And of course, social media is always indispensable to a lot of us, so we do appreciate that hashtag. Remember, it's hashtag I stand for her rights. I'm pleased to welcome back Chief Madzimawe of Zambia and Her Royal Highness Queen Indlovukazi Sikhothali Mabena of the Ndebele Kingdom of Lesotho in South Africa. Thank you so much. And I think we still have His Royal Highness Maigizo Kane Mahaman Mansour from Tessaoa Kingdom in Niger. Thank you so much for helping me get through so many of these questions. And I know our viewers are keen to learn a little bit more and hone in on some of the issues that you brought up in your talks. Your Royal Highness Maigizo, if we do have that connectivity, I'm going to try and direct this question to you. Perhaps you can tell us about the improvement project in Tessaoa. It's called One Family, One Measure of Millet. What strategies have you put in place to prevent and address maternal mortality in Tessaoa?
Bonsoir, madame, une fois encore. Bien que j'ai pas entendu la traduction en français, j'ai compris votre question et je vais essayer de vous répondre. Le projet, je dirais le programme ou l'initiative Une mesure, une vie est un programme purement rural et communautaire. Il se base sur la contribution de chacun dans l'intérêt de tous. Et ça nous permet de nous prendre en charge nous-mêmes plutôt que de toujours tendre la main vers les autres pour nous aider. Nous avons des potentialités, madame. Nous ne devons pas toujours nous comporter comme des mendiants. Nous avons des potentialités et en unissant nos forces, nous pouvons faire mieux que ce que nous pensons. Cette initiative est la première du genre au Niger. On espère qu'elle sera vulgarisée à travers le Niger et à travers l'Afrique pour permettre à toutes les communautés, surtout rurales, de pouvoir prendre en charge elles-mêmes la santé communautaire, la santé maternelle, la santé infantile et de contribuer par cet état de fait à réduire les souffrances et peut-être la mortalité maternelle et infantile. Mais c'est vrai que cette mesure, c'est pas la seule que nous avons engagée. Nous n'avons pas engagé seulement des initiatives dans le cadre de pathologies physiques. Nous avons aussi engagé des mesures dans le cadre de la sécurité morale qui contribue aussi à la sécurité sanitaire et au bien-être de la femme et de la fille particulièrement. Parallèlement à l'initiative Une mesure, une mille, nous avons mis en place des brigades de protection des adolescentes qui, non seulement vont sensibiliser les femmes, les enfants, les communautés par rapport au Covid-19 et aux gestes barrières, mais aussi contribuer à protéger, à dénoncer à mon niveau toutes les tentatives de mariage forcé, ou bien alors de mariage précoce, ou bien toute forme de violence à l'égard des filles, même si c'est la déscolarisation et la non-scolarisation de la jeune fille dans nos communautés. Nous avons mis en place 195 brigades de protection des adolescentes et nous sommes en train d'étudier la possibilité d'en mettre davantage pour aller jusqu'à 200 pour que toutes nos communautés au niveau des villages, des quartiers, des hameaux et des tribus soient couverts et protégés. Madame, mesdames et messieurs, je crois qu'il est grand temps qu'on passe à l'action. On a beaucoup parlé, on a beaucoup tenu de réunions, on a beaucoup tenu d'ateliers à travers l'Afrique, à travers le monde, mais les indicateurs n'ont pas l'air de bouger. Les chefs traditionnels, les leaders traditionnels sont les autorités les plus proches des populations et chacun en ce qui le concerne doit dorénavant pouvoir dire voici ce que je fais, voici ce que j'ai fait. Et s'il a besoin que les partenaires l'accompagnent, il doit montrer patte blanche. Il doit les aider.
Excusez-moi, Your Royal Highness.
Madame, je continue.
Merci. Thank you for those wonderful insights. Merci beaucoup, His Royal Highness Maigizo Mahaman Mansour from Tessawa, Niger, talking to us about the importance of that program. Of course, it is important for women who are having difficulty giving childbirth because it helps save lives, and of course, they do need that blood transportation, rather. Your Royal Highness Queen Ndlovukazi, my next question to you. Let's talk about an initiative that I know is quite close to your heart. Share with us a little bit more about how you're championing when it comes to menstrual health management in your kingdom. We'll try. There we are.
Thank you. It's been a little tough. It's been a little tough in the kingdom due to the lack of
We'll try and get that steady connection with Her Royal Highness Indlovukazi.
So there's not a lot of water, which makes it difficult for the girls to be able to manage anything really, including the school uniform.
Your Royal Highness, if I may interject there, we will try and come back just so we can get those points for you. We're going to try and get that steady connection back. Chief, I'm going to move on to you. That is Chief Madzimawe of Zambia. Perhaps let's start on and talk about how you're supporting, mothers and shelters and transportation, especially when it comes to accessing those maternal health services in Zambia.
Thank you very much. I think it all started with the training that we received, I think with the support from the UNFPA, which with the aid from USAID, they trained our people. And also traditional leaders were trained in Zambia. From there, I think we began to understand what we are supposed to do as leaders of our particular chiefdoms. We have engaged so much, more especially in helping mothers, because as a chiefdom from 2017, we have not recorded any maternal mortality. So we have maintained it, and as per standard policy in Zambia, that expecting mothers due to distances, they need to go and wait when they're in the month 8 of their pregnancies. Now, wherever they go to the rural health facilities, you find that the atmosphere, the place where they're sleeping, is not that conducive. So, and also one of the bylaws in the chiefdom was that every expecting mother must go and wait from the mother's shelter. So what we did now was for us to take it upon ourselves as a chiefdom to begin to bring in necessary requisites in those mothers' shelters by sourcing for mattresses and beds, and also providing food so that whoever is been told to go and wait from there, they should find it more conducive, and also they should not miss home when they are in those facilities. We have also taken it personal now by even helping our people, more especially those who are at a distance from the health facilities, by personally providing one of our vehicles to help out. And we have tried, I think we have saved some lives by that gesture. So we have done much, and if a husband has failed to help or to take part in seeing to it that the pregnant spouse is not taken care of, we have bylaws that are there to punish or penalize those that don't want to take part and care for their spouse, because women must be supported. Women play an integral part when it comes to bringing life to this earth. So it is upon ourselves to change all those social norms that have really not helped, and also the traditions that we inherited as leaders. We are custodians of our cultures, so it is incumbent upon ourselves now to begin to look at those that are positives, those that are not making any sense to modern society should be done away with, so that we begin now to level the playing field, so that each and every human being must begin to enjoy life. We are also taking into account the issues to do with the sexual reproductive health education. It is actually a very key component, because minus this, those women are not going to understand the importance or why we are pushing them to go and deliver from the facility. So it starts with this component, and I must state that UNFPA and UN Women, they've really capacitated us as traditional leaders and religious leaders so that we begin now to inculcate this sense. We begin to arm our young people and women with this information that they lack so that they are able to look after themselves. So these are some of the issues that we are pushing in seeing it that SRH is being inculcated in the young people. We need to arm them with this information so that they know how to look and take care of, after themselves. So, in short, this is what we are doing as a chiefdom with the support of our partners and the local NGOs. We have a methodology that our communities are learning now, which is called SASA, S-A-S-A. And this methodology simply stands for start, awareness, support, and action. So in my chiefdom, we are at this level now where we are now in action, trying to put into practice what we learned during the SASA training. So this methodology, once it is taught into psychosocial counselors and all those community health workers, I tell you, this is something that has really make a lot of sense. It's a game changer in the communities because communities will begin to own the programs, own all the activities. Come to our chiefdom, you'll find that we are ODF, open defecation free,
Yeah.
and
Thank you
all
so
right.
much. Thank you so much, Chief. That is Chief Madzimawe of Zambia, talking to us about some of the initiatives he's rolled out in his chiefdom in order to prevent maternal deaths. Your Royal Highness Queen Ndlovukazi, there's a question from Facebook for you, and the question reads, what are the approaches and strategies you've been promoting in your kingdom to advance menstrual health management and end child marriage?
Oh, thank you very much for that question. As I said earlier, there are a number of things that we're trying to do, especially in terms of educating the girls about menstrual health and sexual reproductive health rights as a whole. It hasn't been easy because I realized that the first time we started having these conversations with most of the girls that I've seen around the kingdom, they are not particularly in the know about what sexual reproductive health rights are. And so we had to start from the beginning in educating them on the rights that they have as a female on their own bodies, the rights that they have to receiving certain medical care at clinics or in hospitals. So we are still in the beginning, I might say, but we are progressing quite well, especially in terms of sensitizing them about the different kinds of sanitary products that they can use. So there's the pad, there's the biodegradable pad, there is the cloth pad which you can wash and reuse, and then there's their tampons, and there's a menstrual cup. So in doing this, I'm trying to empower them to also have accountability over what they prefer. So I would like the girls to be able to speak about what they want and what they would prefer to use, as opposed to just being given what we, I would assume, is felt as right. So I'm also taking it very easy in terms of creating my own kind of menstrual hygiene products, with which there has been a petition to go out and just to try and find out what the girls feel like is comfortable for them. I've even also had this Q&A on Instagram recently, so the feedback was quite positive. But in terms of here in the Ndebele Kingdom, we still have to start at the beginning in terms of providing adequate knowledge about what sexual reproductive health rights are, and especially why it is important to take care of your menstrual hygiene.
Thank you so much for answering that question. And I'm hoping at some point we'll have a little bit more time to talk about, female leadership and the call to service as well. It is a very important time for women and young girls, and also sharing some insights as to how you're empowering young women as well who may admire you and some of the services that you are rolling out in your kingdom. I'm pleased to welcome back Honorable Ochaya Orach Vincent, Prime Minister and Royal Prince from the royal lineage of the 27th Ubimu Olorongwa of the Kurlur Kingdom in Uganda. And we're also joined by Executive Director of SAFAID's Rosé Ektasadi. Thank you for joining us. Vincent, Honorable Vincent, I'm going to come to you with this particular question. We know about the importance of family planning, especially when it deals or pertains to preventing teenage pregnancy. Can you tell us how you've been promoting family planning and, of course, preventing teenage pregnancy in your community?
Thank you very much. First, I would like to say the issue of teenage pregnancy is for everybody, but also the issue of family planning is for everybody's concern. One thing I do agree is we cannot just talk about an evolving world and about changing things, but also change things that is good for humanity. We know we are endangered with in our kingdom with the young girls know sexuality at a very early age because of exposure to so many things. So even us, in terms of culture, we must realize that this is getting ahead of us. So what we as Africans need to see is how relevant is it for us to keep information and access to certain things that need to be done to preserve the good life. And it is in the area of family planning, especially for the teenage, that time has come for us to provide for them enough space around us so that they can be able to engage.
Honorable Vincent, hoping to connect back with him just so he can summarize that point. We keep getting him back, but Honorable Vincent, are you still with us?
I'm around.
Yes, so unfortunately we've got a disconnected there, but if you may, you can continue to clarify your point.
Yes, I was saying that we see the static nature of culture. The things that we hide is harming the generation. That's where the point is. We're harming the young generation with hiding information about reproductive health. So if culture has to be very relevant and addressing the needs of these children, one of the key components is that we need to stand up and say, okay, yeah, we kept the past, it's very good. Now we need to address this current situation where the young people already even know options. Stigmatization is not good for them. Stigma that don't do this, don't do that, no longer plays well in the lives of these young girls.
We'll come back.
We're looking at situation now.
We'll come back to that point as well. I just want to, bring in Rosé as part of this conversation. Rosé, I'm keen to learn a little bit more about, SAFAIDs and the partnership you have with the traditional leaders. In particular, your campaign in the SADC region. If I understand it, it's called My Choice, Our Choice campaign. Tell us a little bit more about that.
Thank you so much. And it's been wonderful listening to our esteemed traditional leaders, our monarchs. It's so inspiring to hear all the incredibly humanitarian efforts that they're putting into place and really changing lives. So as I mentioned in the presentation earlier, the My Choice, Our Choice campaign is aimed at ending unsafe abortion amongst adolescent girls and young women within the SADC region. And it falls within a larger program called Transforming Lives program that is focused on promoting and advancing policy reform and the panorama of the policy dynamic that will be more embracing to adolescents and young people in the entire region. The program, the campaign has two layers to it. It has a regional layer, which is obviously not physical. That would have cost an arm and a leg and probably a lot more. It's digital at a regional level. And in 6 pilot countries, it does have physical components. There are a series of products that have been produced in the 3 main SADC languages to cover the Anglophone, Lusophone, and Francophone countries. The process of the development of the campaign was very extensive. I mean, it's a controversial issue, safe abortion, and the target audience of the campaign are policymakers. This is primarily government and members of parliament, but also what we call champions. And this was from the pool of champions that we had worked with over the past 6 to 8 years, specifically around SRHR, who are religious leaders and traditional leaders. And this is where the traditional leaders, come in. And other allies are representatives of movements, coalitions, and networks that work around adolescent girls and young women, but also men and boys. I think you recall in my presentation I spoke about the gender norms transformative approach. So we have a very close intersect between SRHR responses and the gender equality response. So we work, for example, we collaborate with Men Engage network, bringing in the allyship from men and boys. Again, they're able to engage better with male traditional leaders because of that affiliation, I guess, of sex and gender. Now, the campaign is not on its own. It's within a compendium of actions. So allied to it are what we call PRTHJ, which is a model that we use. It's political, religious, traditional, health and justice leadership, sectoral dialogues. So these are sectoral dialogues that were taking place physically, and now we're kind of shifting off to the virtual, and deliberate and come to convergence and agreement towards, hopefully by 2021, a SADC regional roadmap on what will be required either through the SADC secretariats, a policy, a protocol, a guideline, or a model law, perhaps through parliamentary forum. That will be defined by the PRTHJ, and traditional leaders have a strong voice, and they've been quite vocal. I did mention that they're very creative and flexible, unlike a lot of perceptions, but they really are. And they seek to see their communities be alive and strive and thrive, and they're willing to massage the harmful practices and bring to the fore the more protective ones in the day and age that we live in. So they're pretty progressive in that regard, and have been very supportive to issues around CSE, is comprehensive sexuality education, as a medium to prevent early and unwanted pregnancy, because we know that also is one of the factors that moves or drives adolescent girls and young women to access unsafe abortions, and the morbidity and the mortality as a result of that. So that whole pathway they appreciate. And so the dialogues are dual with the campaign. The campaign is putting out the consistent messaging with one voice. The traditional leaders themselves are showcased in different formats. We have King Fumi, for example, of the Congo, who is, one of those traditional leaders who has spoken out under this platform. We have Princess Bihanta, who we heard of. So it's
That's
an ongoing
absolutely
process. But
amazing, Rose.
you.
Unfortunately, we're running a little bit behind time. I'd love to get more of your insights. And of course, we do want to keep that conversation going. Remember, keep those questions in that Q&A session. And of course, comment amongst each other as well. We are using that hashtag I Stand for Her Rights and Generation Equality across social media. Thank you so much to my guests, Rose Ektasadi there from SAF-AIDS, and of course, Honorable Ochaya Orach from Uganda. Our next speaker has devoted her career to issues of human rights, equality, and social justice. A longtime champion of women's rights, she's affiliated with several organizations devoted to education, women's empowerment, and gender equality, and is the founder of the Mlambo Foundation, which supports leadership and education. Here to share her closing sentiments on the overall expected results and extended impact of the webinar series, as well as the collective vision and plan, please welcome UN Women Executive Director and United Nations Secretary General Phumzile Mlambo-Ngcuka. Can unmute your mic, and then the virtual platform is yours.
Okay. Thank you very much for the introduction. Your Royal Highnesses, UN colleagues, and dear Executive Director Natalia, dear ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for the session today. What an informative discussion. Thank you for the clarity, thank you for the passion, and thank you for all the work that you have been doing, especially in the last 2 years when we have been working with you intensely. This is the series that UN Women is having with you of dialogues. This is the third one we are having this year, and we hope to use the information that we are gathering from you to begin to identify emerging best practice that we must share, that we must reinforce, that we must use in order to address the challenges that we face. I have to say, having been there for all the series, every time I listen, there is something new that you have added in the work that you do. What makes this exciting is the fact that it shows that you are not just about words, you are actually active. And I also hope that as you continue to share, you are providing that cross-fertilization and exchange of experiences. In the first dialogue, we focused on Spotlight. You also had Executive Director Natalia spoke about Spotlight. We will continue to collaborate with you in order to make sure that through Spotlights we strengthen your impact, but also that you strengthen the effectiveness of the work that is being done on Spotlight, especially addressing the harmful traditional practices such as child marriage and FGM. In the second series, we addressed and discussed a dialogue. We addressed and discussed men and boys. We looked at how men and boys are critical stakeholders in the fight against gender-based violence, in the fight for gender equality, in the fight against changing culture and norms that are harmful to women and girls. And again, you had brilliant ideas that we could take away in order to strengthen the work in that area. And today we have discussed sexual rights and reproductive health. And again, you have demonstrated your commitment to an issue that is sometimes not well understood, as many of you pointed out in our community. Young people do not always have access to correct and accurate information, so there's always a risk that they could be misled. And yet the price to pay when there has been misinformation and mishaps is just too high. The changes in the young women's lives that come with the problems that arise from misinformation and inability to access the support and services that they need for their sexual and reproductive health can be devastating for most of times. Africa has a young and a vibrant population. We have a responsibility to be responsible about how we're managing our population, how we use our resources to invest in our young people so that they can be the best they can be. And if we are able to do that, Africa stands to be the brightest continent because of a youthful and, if well educated, then definitely the most productive force on earth in the next coming decade. And this is where you come in. You are sitting in a place where you can help us to reset the trajectory of Africa and communities by making sure that we handle this precious human capital called young people, that we ensure that gender inequality does not become the one thing that is standing between Africa and the progress that Africa can make, and that you are able to make sure that future generations are able to define their future and ensure that it is the brightest it can be. So we would like to also encourage you to take a keen interest in Generation Equality, which is a campaign that will ensure that we address the unfinished business of Beijing Declaration, but also the unfinished business of ICPD, which is the most comprehensive agreement that exists in the world that address women's reproductive rights and needs. Generation Equality, with you in it, will stand to guide us as well as manage the challenges that we have in society that would rob us of our young people and their future. UN Women, UNFPA, UNICEF, and the UN family in general, as well as many civil societies, stand ready to work with you, to support you. We have to work with governments and appreciate when government can support us and encourage them to support and invest in the work that we do. And that collective would be able to champion the future that we envisage in the 2030 agenda, as well as in Africa's agenda that include young people and women. Thank you.
Thank you so much to Executive Director of UN Women, Phumzile Mlambo-Ngcuka. I'm sure you're familiar with the African proverb, if you want to go fast, go alone, but if you want to go far, go together. Speaking of going together, our final speaker is here to share his closing remarks on the role of traditional and cultural leaders at the community level in advancing sexual and reproductive health and rights, the prevention of teen pregnancy, child marriage, trafficking, and harmful practices across the African continent. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome His Royal Majesty King Adedapo Aderemi, Oba of Ido Osun Kingdom, Nigeria, and Convener General of the Council of Traditional Leaders of Africa, also known as COTLA.
Good afternoon. my folks, my colleagues all over the world. My names are His Royal Majesty King Adiremi Akidapo. I'm the Convener General for Council of Traditional Leaders of Africa. And it's a rare privilege and honor to have this forum to address my colleagues and people, stakeholders in fighting the prevalent harm, so-called traditions and customs in Africa, which is teenage genital mutilation, early child marriage, and gender-based violence. After thanking my Almighty God, let me thank the executive directors of UN Women and United Nations Population Fund. I cannot thank them enough for sparing and for collaborating with us in fighting this epidemic all over Africa. We know we have things in common to find this menace in our continent. You will realize, you will agree with me as we are on this occasion commencement of our 16 days of activism against gender-based violence, which starts today. I'm talking of the Council of Traditional Leaders of Africa, that's Scotland, in association with the UN Women, UNFPA. We want to reiterate on behalf of my colleagues, traditional religious leaders all over Africa, that we want to pledge and renew our solidarity and commitment to promote gender equality and to end all forms of gender-based violence against women and girls. Of course, we recognize our responsibility to use our authority and influence to shape attitudes and behavior that ensures that women and girls can live in peace and harmony, because that's what brings prosperity and, of course, security, free from discrimination and harm. This year has been very, very horrendous and challenging for all of us all over the world, especially in Africa. Many have lost their livelihood, which has increased stress level for families, and on and on and on like that. And the reduced in maternity checkups is also affected too, because they have inability to access medical care. The lockdown has, with this the COVID-19 pandemic, has given us, has increased the violence against women, increasing violence against women, girls, and its consequences. FGM, female genital mutilation and cutting, and unintended pregnancies have been prevalent. HIV infections on the rise, and of course, the reproductive health services is on the decline. No access in some places. Practically nothing, locked down. We have taken real action to stop this child marriage in all our communities, and we are champions of girls' education continentally. Since the launch of Kotla in 2019, supported by UN Women, and under the auspices of His Excellency President Edgar Lungu, the President of Zambia, more than 157 chiefs across Africa have banned FGM. Religious leaders in some countries have issued decrees and bylaws to end FGM and end child marriages. But we know that we have so much to do. Across Africa, 125 million girls and women alive today were married before the 18th birthday, and 1 in 10 before the 15th birthday. And recent data estimates that about 68 million girls will be at a risk of FGM by 2030. It's alarming. if current levels of intervention remains in place, if current levels of intervention remains in place, 1 in 3 women has experienced sexual violence by non-intimate partners. It's unbelievable. Intimate partner violence, which is a feature of inequality between women, it strains the lives of too many women. At Scotland, we joined UN Women and UNFPA to end the theme of 10 days campaign for 2020, which is Orange the World. Fund, respond, prevent, and collect. We are shining the spotlight on all forms of violence against women and girls. We call for more effective response parts of GBV, including improved policy, policing, judicial protection through the criminal justice. We are also commending the greater attention to be paid to data collection on the prevalence against women and girls and the monitoring of improvement of GBV services and programs. It is critical that government includes GBV support services, like COVID-19 rapid response plans, and develop innovative strategies to protect women against violence. Campaign for gender equality and positive masculinity is a must and very imperative for us. This for us, in my word, as a Convener General, we have to break our silence. We have to condemn in totality, stand against any form of violence, and adopt a zero tolerance of domestic violence. Child marriage and female genital, which are modern forms of slavery, brutal crimes, and inhuman indignities. Finally, as we iterate, we need to cooperate to operate and make this world a better for all of us. God bless. God bless UN Women. God bless UNFPA. Thank you.
Thank you so much to His Royal Majesty King Adedapo Aderemi, Oba of Ido Osun Kingdom, Nigeria, for leaving us with some much-needed food for thought on the eve of 16 days of activism against gender-based violence. And thank you to each one of you for joining us this afternoon, and to our esteemed panel of speakers from across the continent, without whom today would not be possible. Thank you for your invaluable insights and observations, and for your commitment to advancing sexual and reproductive health and rights, closing the gender gap for women and girls. Today is the eve of 16 days of campaign for 2020, which is Orange the World, Fund, Respond, Prevent, Collect. Our event shines the spotlight on all forms of violence against women and girls, and we're thrilled that you were able to join us in providing a platform for our traditional leaders, faith-based leaders, CSOs, and other experts as we work towards ending violence against women and harmful practices in Africa. I'm Natalia, and it's been an absolute honor to be part of this afternoon's session. Thank you and goodbye.